We believe that videos, images, words, and sounds have the absolute power to inform, inspire, and entertain. We are united under the virtues of safety and knowledge. We are a training community of learners and teachers who encourage and energize each other to achieve greatness. We are pilots, videographers, photographers, freelancers, business owners, enthusiasts, experts, and apprentices. We are creators. We are the Drone U.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another awesome episode of Ask Drone U. My name is Paul.
And I'm Rob, and you're listening to episode number 309. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, as always, for spending a few minutes of your day with us. We really appreciate it.
We do really appreciate it, and I think you guys are going to appreciate this business concept that's been brought up in this question.
Yeah, Chris is thinking creatively.
He is thinking creatively. One thing I like about Chris, too, is he talks about how he's coming in for some in-person training.
Yep.
I still haven't posted all those photos from last week. I have been just off my Instagram game. I need to get back
From
on.
the training last week.
Yeah, and to show people, like, you know, these are everyday people who are coming in to get trained and learn to fly, and people love it.
And obviously we've got a lot of content on the site and so forth, and we do the podcast, but there's nothing like the hands-on and being able to say, Paul, what about this? And you giving them pointers and tips in the moments, working through mistakes together. Yeah. It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. And one thing that I really like is that I really get to engage with people.
Right.
You know, and I ask them, all right, so this is, you know, formal training. We have a structure and we can do all these drills and all these things, but what do you want to learn? Like, what do you really want to work on? And you'd be surprised how much people appreciate that. So it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
really
so Chris is on his way here today, actually.
He is.
So we're excited to meet him face to face. He's been a member for a while, but it'll be good to put a face. Well, we know his face, but it'll be good to meet him.
Yes. Chris probably won't like the weather between now and Thursday, though.
Is it going to be okay Thursday and Friday?
So far, I believe Friday is good. But Thursday, it said it was going to be breezy.
Well, he's going to learn how to fly in the wind.
Hey, you know what? Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I was talking to John Rubrid about this whole issue because I had a powered parachute instructor who wouldn't fly in the smallest of winds. And
5 or 6, we're not exaggerating.
Yeah, literally 5 or 6
Ridiculous.
miles an hour. And I was talking to John, and I was like, is this normal? I know a powered parachute can handle up to 12, 14, 15 mile an hour winds. And he's like, well, for me, whenever I was training people, I always wanted to take them up in the most difficult conditions.
Yeah.
Because I wanted them to experience hell and fear and freaking out while I'm there.
Well, as an instructor, you want to make sure that they can handle that scenario and not freak out.
Well, I think it's also a basic way to learn, right? In order to overcome these problems, you have to be presented with these problems, right?
Right.
And John is that backup. So if he can't handle it for whatever reason, John is there. He can correct him and say, all right, next time you've got to do this, this, this,
right.
this, and this.
And obviously there's always a threshold above which you don't go, but 5 or 6 miles an hour probably is not reasonable.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Got to go finish up those hours here sometime. So Mitch, if you're listening, give me a ring and tell me which powered parachute guy you went with in California. But, you know, there's a new school, thinking of that, Rob. There's a new school. John was telling me about it. 12 days, in and out, powered parachute license, and you're done.
And there's no guarantees because there could still be wind and conditions that would cause it to not be 12 days.
Yeah.
But that sounds good.
Well, I mean, supposedly you guys stay out at the field. You're at the airfield all the time.
Really? Sleep on cots and everything?
I don't know the sleeping arrangements, but that's what I've been told is that it is on the airfield the whole time.
Because you were in Phoenix for what?
A week?
7 days and got 3.25 hours in?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
We don't want to talk about that.
Even hearing that, I just want to cry. It's so pathetic. It is so pathetic.
Well, at this point, it is what it is, and we appreciate the need to be safe. So
well, yeah.
We'll give him the benefit
of the doubt. And honestly,
I'll
say this. The trainer who I had, I may be complaining about it, but he is extremely thorough.
Well, and he's very knowledgeable.
He's extremely knowledgeable.
Knows his stuff.
But he is how do I say this nicely?
Old?
Yes. He's like an
So
old.
am I.
He's like an old nun, right? I had an old nun who was an English teacher, right?
That's
and
funny
she
you
would.
said he's like an old nun.
Yes. But I mean, she would not tolerate anything in class, right? Nothing. And this was my senior year of high school. There were cell phones, not iPhones, but cell phones. I had a BlackBerry. Anyway, she would not tolerate any talking whatsoever. And it was always, you had to know everything by the book. It had to be 100% all the time. She would drill it into you. And that's how he is.
Yeah, you know what? There's something to respect about that. Consistency. You know what you're going to get.
True.
And you appreciate that for what it is. You make a choice to go that route or not.
True.
We can make our choices.
I will say that one time I got really upset. It was when he said I kept checking my phone. And I maybe looked at my phone twice in one morning, and I had like 1,100 notifications, and it was just like, dude.
Of course, I will say, you checking your phone is like me blinking.
I was really good, though, because this information is like life or death, right? You go up there in the air, and guess what? It's just you. So you got to know what you're doing. You
Absolutely.
know? So I'm actually going to release the time lapse that I did. One of the days you have to spend like actually undoing the parachute and do it like stacked versus, the other way to line up your parachute. And you've got to figure out if you've got a line that's tangled. You've got to do all this stuff. So I packed that parachute probably 2-3 dozen times.
Oh, wow.
It took like all day long. And
part of the training.
I have a time lapse of the whole thing.
Can't wait.
It's kind of like, it's kind of funny.
Well,
you're just like, oh.
We're going to speed it up a lot.
Yeah. Stacked versus inverted.
Cool.
So, all the time.
Awesome.
Let's get to today's question. Thank you guys again for listening in. You can get these directly in your phone automatically if you subscribe. So if you go to Stitcher, you can subscribe, or go to iTunes and subscribe. That podcast app got a little bit better with that update. So anyway, today's question is brought to you by... Are you a drone pilot? Are you operating under a Section 333 exemption? Then you may be familiar with Item 27, which requires you to get a property release for every flight over property.
Legal Flyer is an app for iPhone and iPad that helps you create professional property releases in less time than it takes to do a pre-flight check.
You can add your pilot info, you can sign it, hand it to the property owner for their signature. But wait a second. Legal Flyer's advanced integration automatically adds latitude, longitude, and even altitude.
Then add a panorama straight from the app. Everything drops into a single-page PDF you can share with a single tap. It's compliance at light speed. Visit LegalFlyer.com for more information or get it straight from the App Store. Legal Flyer. Property releases for professional drone pilots.
Good morning, Viet Drone U. I bet Rob can guess that movie. Maybe Paul. Classic. Anyways, Chris from Nashville again had a question that I don't think's been asked on the podcast, or at least I haven't heard it, and I've listened to almost 300 podcasts and can't wait for the next 300. But my question is, we have a local news station that does not have a news helicopter, and their morning traffic reports are done from the front seat of a Honda. They'll get on the interstate, get stuck in traffic, report on it, get on a different interstate in a different direction, stuck in traffic, report on it, and so on and so forth. So I had the idea of possibly getting in contact with them and pitching them the use of the drone. I could do the traffic reports from different exits or possibly side streets. I wouldn't have to fly directly over the interstate. I could fly off to the side of it because I know we're not supposed to fly over the highways or whatnot. So would a 333 help out with this? I know working for a news agency or whatnot, I would probably need to get one just to put their mind at ease, but would a 333 cover something like this? Also, would you want to do it as freelance or possibly working for the news station? That way you could shoot other events that they're covering or whatnot that you would shoot from a helicopter, but in this case you do it from a drone. Also, I know we can live stream from the Inspire 1 or the Phantom 3, so I would have that capability also. Just thought I'd ask. Been watching this particular news station, and my wife and I have been bouncing around the idea. But thanks for all the information. Got everything booked for in-person training, so be there in a couple weeks, and can't wait to learn from the master.
So, Chris, thank you very much. We appreciate you. So, love the Robin Williams reference, Nanu Nanu.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Do you remember Nanu Nanu?
No.
You don't remember? Mork and Mindy? It's It's pretty much where Robin Williams got his start. You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Anyways, good
Robin
stuff.
Williams was awesome, though. I love.
He was awesome.
Yeah, there was a lot of great movies. You know, I also think this maybe sound a little crazy, but when I think of Vietnam, I also think of Dumbo Drop. I don't know why.
Of who?
Dumbo Drop. You never. The movie starts like dun 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 dun.
That didn't help.
Okay.
I don't know Dumbo Drop. I try to stay away from movies that start with Dumbo.
Anyway, well, you're missing out because big ears make you fly. So
there's a lot of movies that I've missed out on that you chastise me for.
Well, those
That's
are
okay.
actually good movies.
No, they're not.
Things like Anchorman.
Well, yeah, I've heard good things about that. Anyways, 333.
Sorry, Facepalm. I am going to buy you a stack of DVDs. I already have
Yeah,
a
you keep
collection
saying
going.
that.
No, I have a collection going right now.
Do you?
So
All right.
yeah, have you ever seen Knocked Up?
I'm gonna
Pineapple Express.
I think I've seen Knocked Up. That's got Josh Groban. Is that right? Is that his
No,
name?
That's Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen.
At least it rhymed.
Pop culture is not my strong point.
Well, it's okay. So there's a lot of tinkers
I don't have
out
time.
there. Yeah, no one cares. That's okay.
Yeah.
Anyways. So 333. It's funny that he mentions this, Chris. It's super funny he mentions this. I was just having this conversation with Rupert. I'm just gonna call him J Rep. Literally last weekend about this exact thing because there was a news agency here in Albuquerque that was asking for some shots, and it's so funny the way people vet now. I mean, a lot of people are not really educated on the 333. I got this email and he's like, "Yeah, Paul, we just need to make sure you have a 333 and you're insured." I'm like, I emailed him back and I said, "Ethan, I'm like disappointed in your legal team because you need a 333. You need someone with a pilot's license. In order to get closer than 500 feet, you need an MPTOM." I said, "There's a lot of things that you really need in order to go do this. It's not just that black and white." And it could be, like a little shocker to him. But anyway, here's the thing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think these folks, they've now heard of the 333, but their understanding of it, as you're suggesting, is just very, very shallow.
Yes.
But they're going with it because it makes them feel better.
Correct. But it also just goes to show that a lot of people just don't know the correct way. And I don't really blame them. It's not like out there.
Well, that's true. Part of it is just it's hard to understand. It's so fuzzy.
Well, it really is. And when one definition says one thing and then the law says another, and these things contradict each other, which many things do. If you've read John Rupert's book, The Drone Law, he actually has a table in there that showcases definitions of things related to drones and where they say different things and how many times they say different things.
So you really got to get that book if you're thinking commercial at all.
Yes, and it's astonishing. I mean, that's why the other day on Facebook I said, 90% of all drone operators are breaking the law the way it's written right now, which
Right.
is true. It's totally true because if drones are aircraft, then literally people are breaking the law.
And
every
ignorance
day.
is not a defense, mind you.
No, but at the same time, a lot of people would say, well, I blame the FAA for not making this clear, and I think that's why they're making the rush to the 107 so that there's just a clear understanding because they realize it's only going to take time before lawsuits pop up and
Right.
Liability issues happen and people get hurt or, one falls out of the sky, excuse me. It's morning and I'm only one cup of coffee deep. So, but what I would say to Chris, though, and very excited to have him out here for the in-person training, what I would say to Chris, though, is that I would definitely work as a freelancer. You're definitely
Sure.
going to need the 333. And if the company, meaning the news agency, doesn't have the 333, you definitely need to have one. And here's the bigger issue. The thing that John and I were talking about was that in this exact instance, in fact, is what we were talking about because it was happening to me. He said, the big issue here, why they're asking for the 333, is that if your insurance states that you have to be following FAA guidelines and you don't have the 333 and you're operating commercially, they can prove negligence right there. So if anything were to ever happen, news agency can wipe their hands clean and say, he was negligent, and then essentially all the damages would be on you.
The insurance agency could wipe their hands.
Yes, but also the the news agency
Gotcha.
itself.
So both. Ultimately, it's all
Yeah.
going to funnel down to you potentially. You
Exactly.
run that risk,
which is a
what you're
situation
saying.
you do not ever want to be in. You want multiple levels of protection. So, that's the thing is that in the court of law, if they were to prove negligence and you simply weren't operating under the 333, they could prove negligence right there. So,
Cool. Well, and certainly from the question of freelance versus working for the station, the amount of freedom that you give up by going to work for the station. First of all, I don't know that they're going to have
Astronomical.
that kind of a position available. Maybe they
You'd
would.
be no, you know what? You'd be surprised. In the
Okay.
last 3 people I trained last weekend, there were 2 that were hired on by companies that were working freelance and then got hired on,
By news agencies?
No, one was a construction company and one was an engineering firm.
Okay. So basically, those guys are looking at it. They're busy. They've got a lot of projects going on, and they figure they can keep these pilots busy and
Yeah.
therefore essentially pay them less, probably, even with the load from taxes and everything.
Well, yeah, they definitely get paid less, but a lot of pilots like it because many people have that, how do I say it, the 9 to 5 mindset, you
Right.
know? I need that steady check all the time. Like a lot of people haven't had to like work for every single piece of money they get, every
and they don't
dollar
want to have to
they
go out and
get.
get business and hit the streets
And some
pound
people,
the pavement.
yeah, some people aren't A-types. They don't like to network with people. They don't like
Right.
to connect, and that seems difficult for them. And you know what? It is difficult, Rob. I think you know that. You have a company. You have a couple companies,
Right.
Drone U being one of them.
Right.
And going out there and getting business is definitely difficult. It's definitely one where you got to, suck your gut in and swallow and get
Is that what
ready.
you mean?
Get ready. I don't take that the wrong way, Rob, okay? I just want to be clear here.
I'm just. That's good.
No, I mean swallow your pride is really what I was
Yeah, I know what you
going
mean.
with
Kinda
it. So
Just
yeah,
clear the system and go for it.
you know what's funny though? I saw a TV show recently where it's called Hacking the System. It's on Netflix, and he talks about how to get what you want from a hotel, from a ticket agent at the airport, like
In terms of like what to
psychologically
say,
messing
how
with
to play
people
with
to
them,
get what you
yeah.
want. And it's actually really simple. And it's funny because when I was traveling and living in Europe, finally after a while, I just got in like super chill mode where I just didn't care about anything. And I wanted to just be nice to people to see if they would react differently to me.
I was just gonna.
Silence.
I was just gonna say, it's amazing what you can accomplish by being nice.
Oh, totally.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so
Not complicated.
in the instance of that trial of trying to be nice, right? Every single, like this one instance, I was in Prague trying to go to Amsterdam, and in Europe you can get bump flights like super fast, right?
Yeah.
They're $30-$40. Well, euros, but yeah. And I was trying to go to Amsterdam because it was 2010. It was like they were trying to shut down all the cool stuff that goes on in Amsterdam, like in the next legislative session. So I had to go. Anyway, all the flights were shut down to Amsterdam. Hey, we all went to college, okay? So the college. Anyway. The flights were shut down to Amsterdam. There was one left. I ended up getting on it because I was super nice to the ticket lady,
Yeah.
speaking in Czech, which was difficult for me. And then I met a guy who was on the same flight who ended up showing me all around Amsterdam. And he was like a super high up Swiss banker. And
Nice.
he never told me his full name. And he sent me an email like 2 weeks later. And I looked him up, and he literally was like a 7-figure executive officer. And he showed me around Amsterdam like he was 21. So.
Wow. See, and so some people have a knack for that whole networking and connecting thing. Paul's one of those people, which is a nice knack to have. But anyways, generally speaking, I think freelance. And what I'm getting the feeling is that most of these people that we're working with that are being a part of Drone U, that are communicating with us, they seem to be more of the freelance type.
True.
And in fact, a lot of them are kind of getting away from that working for the man.
Oh, yeah. That's
life.
kind of like the...
Hello.
That's kind of like the millennial kind of way, I guess you could say. But my point in telling that story is that if you focus on being nice and you focus on building relationships, that's one of the key parts of being a good freelancer. There are a lot of freelancers that get in that kind of I'm an introvert, like meh, a troll, internet troll kind of. That's kind of like what I imagine. And that's actually really bad for your mind. Like scientifically, if you look it up, if you spend more time by yourself, it's actually a detriment to your health overall. So being out networking, that is actually very good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the Bible tells us not to be idle. not to be alone, essentially.
Interesting.
Yeah, there
Very
you go.
cool.
There you go.
Bringing in that information, Rob. I like that. So
You're welcome.
Keeping it real.
Anyways, so specifically the question is, will the 3033 cover me to do this kind of work?
Yes, but here's the thing. So freelance is definitely the way to go. You're going to make more money, build the relationship that way. Over time, when you build this relationship, they're going to care about you like they would as if you were an employee, which is what you want to build that relationship.
Right.
You're not going to be able to charge like a couple $1,000 for each job, but, if you charge a couple $100 for each, like 15, 20-minute shot, $400 or $500, that's going to pay out very well over time. But here's the thing, Rob. If he is specifically trying to get these drone shots of traffic in that area, what I would do is I would pre-map out these shots, and I would go to those houses or areas on the weekends when people are home, and I would try to get private property permission slips from specific homes that were in specific areas in which I wanted to fly to get those shots. That way you have private property permission that you need for your 333. But here's the thing. If you use the Legal Flyer app, you can set an unlimited duration in your contract. So you can set private property permission in perpetuity. So that's one of the things that we built into the app when we thought about like how this would all work, which is funny because did you know we built the Legal Flyer app knowing that the 333 and commercial operators would need private property permission 2 years before that ever happened?
It's magic.
It's actually FCC law. People just got to do their homework. Anyway.
You guys did your homework. Nice. Yeah. Now there's a nice app that people can use.
But anyway, the whole point is if he does that, he can go back to those same locations over and over and over and not have to get a bunch of useless paperwork. He just has one contract for each location for, say, annually or in perpetuity. And then he has the same places that he can go to over and over and over.
Absolutely.
And really create the system to do the traffic watch, which I think is a great idea. I have questions and limitations about the way in which he does the YouTube live streaming from his phone. One of the things that I would recommend that you can do in the new DJI Go app, you can actually set the rate of information data that's going between the drone and the remote and into YouTube. I would actually turn that down. I think it's like 6 megabits per second to 4 megabits per second is like kind of your load capacity.
Right.
I would set it to 4 because that way you're not trying to push as much data through the system to make that live stream crash. And honestly, I would think about having a dedicated Wi-Fi hotspot, probably a Verizon one. And I only say Verizon. I don't use Verizon. I use T-Mobile, but we live in the Rust Belt where T-Mobile has pretty good coverage, in my opinion. But Verizon has the most bandwidth allocation. So if you have a Wi-Fi hotspot that's Verizon, you're connected your tablet to that, and you're live streaming through that. If you can push 10 meg up, you shouldn't have a problem. So, but I mean, we live stream here at Drone U, and we never have a problem. But well, I wouldn't say we never have a problem. We very rarely have a problem, but we push 25 meg up. So it's,
absolutely
very different.
Now, I would imagine he's going to be doing a specific area consistently. I would think maybe one of the busier areas, one of the areas more prone to accidents or something. He's going to have line of sight issues, right? He's got to make sure he keeps line of sight with his drone.
Yeah, and I'm also
factor in things like that.
Yes, absolutely. But I'm glad you mentioned that. One thing I forgot to say is that it is never okay to fly over a highway. So,
right.
Which
he alludes to.
Yeah. So when you get these property permission slips from these houses nearby, just think of that cylinder of air as your ability to fly and get what you can in that cylinder. The news, it's funny, John and I were talking about this the other day. The news is the most uncreative videography services you've ever seen. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they literally just want this like, here's I don't know Nashville very well, but I would say like here's I-40 and here's I-95 and I-81 and here's a nice pan of that right there. Look, you can see traffic on I-95. You can see it on I-40 as well. So that they're not gonna want this like tilt the camera down full nadir, slowly tilt and reveal up. They're not gonna want that. So your shots are actually really easy to acquire here.
Well, yeah,
Chris,
it's about information,
True.
right? And getting clear information to the people that need the information.
How funny would it be though if it was just a bunch
he
of
turned it
aerial
into
cinematic shots with the traffic? Literally, he's like over the highway, twist ties up out to reveal like the mountains.
People watching the traffic report everywhere.
Like, this is so beautiful.
Look at that sunrise.
Gosh, those cars and the streaking lights. Wow.
Anyways, all right.
What, you can't have fun with the news?
Absolutely, we can have fun. Please, let's have fun with the news. We need to do something different with the news besides all the bad news.
Seriously. Yeah, have some fun with it, guys.
Yeah, so there
Funny
you go,
thing is,
Chris.
I think only reporters and like broadcasters and videographers would really understand what was going on and think it was funny, but it would be funny to a large amount of people.
Could be.
Like that would be something cool to show at NAB,
There you go.
which is coming up here soon.
Very soon. Yeah, you guys are heading out there in a couple weeks.
Yes, we are. We are headed out there. We've got our tickets. We need to lock down our hotel. But I'm kind of bummed Anthony Cools isn't going to be around. I'm not going to be able to go see him. He's taking, since he re-upped his pilot's license, he's flying his Cessna to the Bahamas with a couple friends, and they're taking their drones with them. And they're just going to go have some fun, which I think is awesome.
That sounds horrible.
That's what drone life is all about, right, Rob?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Living the drone life.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, you can live the drone life. All you need to do is send in your questions so we can help you get there at askdroneu.com. Please send them in. Give us the accents. We love them. We haven't had too many accents recently.
Well, you weren't here when we recorded John Casey's episodes, but they
Okay.
were two super killer accents.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to go
And
listen to those.
We don't know. Maybe Chris was just like really exaggerating his southern accent, and we
Could
just
be.
have no idea. And he's just like, I just really talk like this all the time.
I think that was pretty much him, but you could be right.
Yeah, that's
Maybe.
true. Maybe.
What else, Paul? Let's see.
I think that's pretty much it.
Can
You
do it?
know,
Cool.
big special thanks. There are a couple sponsors that are trying to get on right now. That's my fault. I'm trying to finalize that all, so be patient with me, please. Other than that, guys, if you are looking for in-person training, that just got added to our website. I don't know why it wasn't on our new website, but it's on our website.
It is? Are you sure?
I thought it
Have
was.
you seen it?
No, I thought it was there.
So it may
There's
not.
Rob correcting me again.
Well, I'm only saying I don't. No. Believe me, if they go
Okay,
look
let
and
me
it's not
clarify
there,
this.
they'll correct you.
It's available. Okay, it's available. Just email us. Support the
Yes.
drone. You know what? Don't go to the website. Support at the drone. You just let us know you're in. So.
That's you can try going to the
I mean,
website. Maybe it's there.
We get a lot of requests for that anyway. So
Yes.
why go to the website? You know what you're gonna do, right?
The easiest thing is to reach out to us. Yeah, support at or even Facebook, message us, whatever.
Yeah, totally true. Well, that's gonna do it for us today, guys. My name is Paul,
And I'm Rob.
and I'm being corrected, and that's gonna be it for today. So have a good one, guys. This is Ask Drone You.
Oh gosh.
We believe that videos, images, words, and sounds have the absolute power to inform, inspire, and entertain. We are united under the virtues of safety and knowledge. We are a training community of learners and teachers who encourage and energize each other to achieve greatness. We are pilots, videographers, photographers, freelancers, business owners, enthusiasts, experts, and apprentices. We are creators. We are the Drone U.